High stakes presentations are the kind of presentations where careers are made, legends are born, and you do know that you can't mess up in these kind of presentations. And that is what we are going to cover today. So I am going to answer most of the questions, 30 questions that are frequently asked to a public speaking coach about how to prepare for a high stake presentation. You will know how to train, how to prepare, what you should have in the structure of your speech, how to answer questions, how to anticipate the curveballs or anything that can happen that you want ready for. And by the end, you should have a complete guide on how to make sure that you nail your next high stake presentation and seal that deal. All right. So the random questions are right here, and we'll start with the first one. What is the first thing you do when helping a client prepare for a high stake presentation? The very basic question, which is very important. The first thing to do when helping a client prepare for a high stake presentation, you first have to know who this client will be talking to. And that's where the most important thing and basic thing to cover when talking about high stake presentation is your audience. Who will you be talking to? If they are CEOs, if they are engineers, if it's a pitch to your new employers, you have to identify your audience, because if you don't identify your audience, then you are just talking to yourself. If you don't tell your audience things that they care about, things that they are here to listen, then your message won't land. So the first thing is to know who you will be talking to or who will be receiving the message you want to share. Okay, follow up question. Why do you start there? As I've said, if you don't know who you are talking to, you're just talking to yourself, and no one will listen to you if whatever you are telling them is not what they care about. What risk come with skipping this stage? The risk that come with skipping this stage is that, of course, you will deliver a message to the people who don't care about that message. Okay, so you have to identify your audience, and then from there you can craft a message that shows how to do the thing they would like to benefit from your speech. How do you tailor this based on a speaker's experience level? Okay, so about the speaker's experience level, if they are just at the beginner stage, we'll have to structure our opening and closing first in a way that the opening will capture the attention, and the closing will make sure that they are unforgettable. And also we'll have to adjust to the body. When it's a speaker who is most experienced in their talk or in their field, then we'll tell them things that might spice up their talk and help them to land their message even better and help them more understandable. So basically, this is how you can structure a high stake presentation. The first thing is to know your audience. Who are you talking to? Who, what do they care about? Their demographics, their infographics. Are they CEOs? Why are they here? Is it voluntary, or were they told that it's a must that you listen to this speech? Are they students? Are they newbies? Are they experts? Are they going to judge you? Are they your clients? Are they your employees? Okay. Then the second thing is to craft a killer opening and a killer closing. As I've touched earlier, a killer opening will determine whether this person or the people in the audience want to sit there and listen to the rest of the things you have to offer. If you don't craft an opening that will trigger curiosity in the brains of the person who is listening, then they will tune out before you can even continue with the body. So for the killer opening, you can start with these three or four methods. The first one is a bold statement. A bold statement is like me saying, I am not black. Okay. So you will not only see that as bold, but also crazy and false because you can see I'm black. But then the catch is you add an expectant twist to that. Maybe I've opened like that because that was a metaphor I wanted to add, or I was trying to quote somebody else and so forth. So whenever you say that, they will lean in to listen as to why you've said that. You can also start with a shocking statistic. For example, tell them, after I finish this talk, 2,000 businesses are going to close because of bankruptcy, or 75% of people in the entire world fear public speaking more than they fear death. Okay, a shocking stat. And this shocking stat has to be related to the field that you are in. Don't tell them about business when you are going to talk about mechatronics, for example. Okay. And then the other thing is an intriguing question. An intriguing question is also a question that will spark curiosity in the brains of the person who is listening to you. You can also start with a story, a relatable story. Okay. You can start with either a client success story, a relatable story, or your personal story, which is, of course, related to the talk you are going to share. I don't like to tell people to open with a joke because not everyone can tell a joke. And if you tell a joke and it doesn't land well, people don't laugh, you usually feel a little bit off. You think that things are going awfully in that presentation. So if you know you can't start with a joke, don't start with a joke. Okay. Then we move on to the killer closing. The closing is very important because this is the last thing you tell people, and the last thing you tell people will determine whether they will remember you after the presentation or they will not even remember that you ever spoke to them. So you can close with a memorable quote. For example, tell them, as Maya Angelou said, people don't remember what you say, but they remember what you make them feel or how you make them feel. You can also close with a call to action, CTA, and this is the most powerful way to close your speech. But of course, you can join the other tips. So let me first let me cover the CTA last. You can also close with a story, a short story, or a metaphor. And tell them life is like a marathon. It doesn't matter how fast you start the race, but how well you finish the race. You can end with a circling back or a full moment cycle where you circle back to what you started with. For example, if you started a story, the story was 5 years ago. I remember sitting at my coffee table, 2 a.m. in the morning, with a lot of pages open, scribbled notes lying down on the table. And I was there wondering if I was crazy to start this business. So, assuming you started with that story, you can circle back. Do you remember 5 years ago, me sitting at the coffee shop? Guess what? That person has just broken whatever record that person has broken. So, you can always circle back. If you gave a story about Sarah, remember Sarah at the beginning of the speech, or remember when I told you I would go back to this particular phrase? Okay. So, finally, the CTA, or the call to action, the most powerful way of closing any presentation. Here is where you invite someone to do something, to feel something, or to think about something. So, whenever you start your speech, you should always start with the end in mind. And the end in mind should help the listener think, feel, or do something based on your speech. So, you can tell them, I want you to go home and write down 3 time wasters that make you not so productive in your field. And then write a timetable which you must follow on how to do this. Or I want you to write this note on the mirror of your bathroom, so that every time you wake up and go to look at that mirror to brush your teeth, you see that note and it will help you do this. Or I want you to put a book next to your bed. Every time you go to sleep, you see the book, you remember that I have to read 2 pages. So it's always something that they have to think, feel, or do. But I've said that you can wrap the other methods to the call to action. For example, let's try connecting the memorable quote plus the call to action together and say, as Maya Angelou said, people don't remember what you said, but they remember how you made them feel. So make sure that when you go home tonight, you will write down and so forth. Okay, that was point two, Aquila opening and Aquila closing. Now we move on to the next thing on how to prepare for a high stake presentation, and that is anticipating the curveballs. Now you have to notice that it's a high stake presentation, meaning things may go wrong, but you have to make sure that you are ready for the things that may go wrong. For example, let's say your presentation slides fail to work or technology just fails. What you do is you have printed handouts which you will hand over to the people so that they can follow along with you. Also, you should have mastered your presentation by heart so that if anything fails, like the signs, you will not be there to wonder what you should do next. And of course, when preparing and when using slides, there is an entire presentation about this which I should cover in the course of this week or early next week, probably this week. So make sure that you either have printouts or handouts which you will hand over to the people so that they can follow along with your presentation. If the microphone fails, for example, what you can do is go to the middle of the room. If you go to the middle of the room, you can speak from there with your natural voice projected so that people can hear you. But if it's a huge group of people, then you will you will have to have suggested other methods of using technology so that it doesn't fail. If you are asked a tough question which you are not ready for, a question that you hadn't anticipated, or you don't have any idea on how to respond, you can use the ABC method. A is for acknowledge. Thank you. That's a very nice question. That's a beautiful question. Then B is for bridge. Bridge is to show how that question is connected to what you've just talked about. And C is to conclude. So, in conclusion, this is what I advise you should do, or in conclusion, or to answer your question, and so forth. Now, for a question which you really don't know how to answer, you can buy time by asking the person who asked you that question, what is your insight about the question you've just asked? Or what do you think would be the best thing based on what you've just asked? So, as they tell you what they think, you will have an idea of how to respond to the question they are asking. Or if you won't have any idea, tell them that's a very interesting question to ask. And I think the best way we can do is to answer this question offline or backstage. Okay, the next thing is to prepare as if you're prepping for the Olympics. Okay, by prepping as if you're preparing for the Olympics, you will have to stimulate things that will make you uncomfortable as you deliver this presentation. So, here you are preparing at your house or hotel room or wherever you are preparing this presentation. The first thing you should do is make sure that you've ordered your presentation according to the section. So the introduction, the opening, the body, the closing, prepare for all that. See if you can say each section out loud. And of course, when I say prepare, I mean you have to say the things out loud. Say everything out loud: the opening, the introduction, the body, the closing. After that, try to speak from random groups. For example, don't start with the opening or the introduction, start with the body, and not just the body, but section 3 of the body, or point number 3, point number 4, and then jump to the opening, jump to the closing. And the reason why you should do this is because you never know. They may say that your presentation was about 2 hours or 1.5 hours, but we've cut it down to 30 minutes. Or can we just jump to the body, or can we just jump to the most important point? So you should make sure that in your preparation you have all these catered for that. If you are told to start from a certain place, you are told to just give us the closing and the introduction, you will be able to crush it. Also, something else about the the preparation is that you can make sure that you have the clothes, the heels, or the boots you will wear during the presentation. Then try walking around in them. How comfortable is it? Can you walk around with these heels? The clothes you are going to wear, are they comfortable enough? Can you use gestures to demonstrate what you are saying based on the clothes you will be wearing on that day? Something else is to make sure that you are making it hard for yourself to prepare for this speech. For example, try speaking with the TV turned on or the radio, because you may be in a room where there are other people out there who are trying to speak. So to make sure that that won't distract you, make sure that you have distracted yourself in the presentation. Something else is make sure that you visit that place where you will be presenting, if it's possible to visit it beforehand. Try to see where the stage is, where the microphone is. Will it be handheld microphone? Is there a podium? Is the ground level to where the audience will be seated, or will it be a raised place for you to speak? All these will help you know, okay, so there isn't much room to move, and there is a podium, there is a microphone, meaning I will have to stand on just one place. I will have to move only my hands. I won't walk a lot, or the space is like a tent space. I can walk and move and interact with the people. So make sure you have all these things catered for as you prepare for a speech. The other thing about preparing for a high stake presentation is to make sure that you follow up after you're done speaking, because it doesn't end when you just get out of the stage. It ends when you've sealed the deal. So you can follow up by maybe messaging individuals and then mentioning some names. For example, hey, Mike, the question you asked about revolution is very important, and this is what I have to add. Or do you people have questions about a certain topic I covered? Or thank you everyone for showing up. This is a summary of what we covered, or this is a PDF of everything I had in the presentation. Make sure that you follow up so that these people can remember you after you are done with the presentation. Now, there is also some things that I haven't covered. For example, owning the room like a rock star. By owning the room like a rock star, I mean that you have to master confidence as you deliver this presentation, because confidence is something that is contagious. If you are confident and the viewers see that you are really confident, then they will also be confident in you. They will know whatever this person wants to tell me is going to help me in my journey. So, the way you master confidence is you can start by something basic like taking a deep breath. Take a deep breath, inhale, exhale for 3 or 4 counts, and then stand like Wonder Woman for a few seconds. Standing like Wonder Woman is where you put your hands on your hips, your chest out, your face up, and then just feel that moment. Okay, that raises testosterone even in female. It helps you feel more confident. And then after you enter the stage, this is what I want you to do. Stand there for 2 seconds. Look around the room. Smile. Then walk to the podium or to the center of the stage and then start speaking. This moment where you've entered and there's this pause will make the audience know, oh, this is a confident person. They are really owning the room. I can expect good things to come from this presentation. Finally, the act of storytelling. Storytelling is very important when it comes to presentation because, of course, people do not remember what you tell them. Oh, sorry. People do not remember all the bullet points you have. People do remember the kind of stories that you tell them because stories can be attached to, or emotions can be attached to stories. And with all these emotion, someone feels something. Maybe you made them feel happy, you made them feel sad, you made them sympathize with their situation. And so every time they will remember, the story of that lady really struck something in my heart, or it inspired something, or inspired some action to me. So always make sure that you master the art of storytelling. There is one basic method that is taught when it comes to storytelling, and that is the hero's formula. So in the hero's formula, this is what you are told. There is a problem, there is the solution, and there is the happily ever after. For example, I was drowning in debt. Then the solution, this is what I did. I first looked for a job, then paid for my debts and so forth. And then what's the happily ever after? I now own this business which is doing so well. But that is not the method I recommend for storytelling because first, people expect it. You don't want to be very predictable. Okay. If you start with I was drowning in debts, they will know of course you did something to deal with the debts, which is very basic, and then you are now here talking to us. You can use the deep valley. This is something I see Lisa Nicole saying, where you start by say where you are right now. I own this business. I do these presentations every day. I coach this kind of people. And then you go to a rock bottom, the moment where you are at a point of no return, point of knowing that if I don't do something, I will be crushed. What happened there? This is what was happening. This is how I felt. And always tie emotions to the presentation you have. And then after that, you rise up again, where you now go telling them the steps you took, what you implemented to make sure that you reached to the point you are, how you rose above that situation. That's a very nice way to tell a story to people. So instead of just saying, I was like this, and then I did this, and then I became like this, try to spice things up. I will cover a lot about storytelling in an episode dedicated entirely for storytelling, so don't worry about that. Okay, I have another question here. Question 2, section A. How do you prepare a speaker? How do you help a speaker analyze their audience in a high stake presentation? Okay, when analyzing your audience in a high stake presentation, of course, I said you have to know who they are. Are they CEOs? Are they executives? Are they managers? Are they employees? Are they clients, potential clients, and so forth? Then why are they here? Are they here to interview you? Are they here to see if they will invest in your pitch? Are they here to see if they can buy products from you? Okay, is it voluntarily or involuntarily? For example, you want to teach a certain concept to people and your audience is students or people who want to start new businesses and so forth. So if it's student, are they here voluntarily, or did their teachers tell them you have to listen to this, or did anyone advise it to them, or did they think I need to change something in what I'm doing so I will attend this presentation? Then what do they care about? What do they care about? If they are here to learn something, What exactly are they here to learn? What do they expect you to say? For example, they want to know how to start a business, or they want to know how to not go bankrupt when determining or when starting a business. What should you do? Make sure that whatever you do, you know that the exact person I will be talking to cares about this. Create a persona for this person. Give them a name. This is Sarah. This is what Sarah thinks about. These are the pain points Sarah is facing. This is what keeps Sarah at night, awake at night. This is what really frustrates Sarah. This is what Sarah would love to know. If I teach Sarah this particular thing, then she will like me. Okay? Are they focusing on return on investment? What kind of thinking do they have? Is it the big picture thinking? Do they think more about the future? What kind of presentations do they like? Do they like a presentation with numbers? Do they like a presentation with lots of stories? Do they like a presentation with data? Make sure that, for example, if you are talking to accountants, they will love to see some numbers there and some jokes about numbers. If you are talking about, if you are talking to salespeople on how to increase their sales, they do care a lot about stories and a lot about funny images that will make them smile and will paint this picture in their mind on how to engage a client. So make sure that you know exactly what they care about, who they are, their pain points, their desires, their hope, and create this persona to them. Okay. Another thing about knowing your audience, you will also have to speak their language and adjust your content to their needs. For example, si hablo español ahora y tú no entiendes español, just that point alone, I've said if I speak Spanish and you don't understand Spanish, reach there. What I mean is, if you are talking a language to someone who doesn't understand the language, then you are hitting no point at all. So if you are going to talk to people, for example, accountants, and then you start telling them about how approaching a client can be cool because it can drive this one. They barely approach clients, they deal with numbers. So talk to them about numbers and how to increase their productivity and so forth. Okay. About adjusting your content to their needs. I mean, you have to master this acronym WIIFM. It stands for What's in It for Me. What's in it for me simply answers the question, why should I care about this presentation? For example, our sales team, why should they care? They should care because this strategy I am about to offer will help you close deals faster and boost your commission. That's what they care about. If you are talking to HR teams, you will tell them this approach will reduce the turnover rate and will drive more and will improve employee satisfaction even more. If you're talking to marketers, talk to them things that will increase their click through rates and increase or drive more leads. Basically, you get that point. Also, match your delivery to the room. There are people who are high energy people, for example, salespeople. These people want you to use bold gestures, to use funny things, to walk around, to interact with them, ask them questions. And then there are people who are more reserved, more quiet. They just want you to go there and do what you came there to do. Tell them everything. If they like data, show them charts with data, summarize that data, tell them how it will help to increase their either return on investment and so forth. Okay, so about low energy people, tone it down, speak slowly, use deliberate gestures. Okay, make sure that they are getting you, you are connecting well with them. If they are high energy people, use bold gestures. Enthusiasm should be shown. Okay, make sure that you are fast paced, you are using dynamic movements on the stage. Okay, that's should answer that question. The follow-up question says, how would you adjust your approach if the audience includes high-level executives and technical professionals? When you are talking to mixed audiences, you always have to find the balance between these people. So at some point, talk about this, and then at some point, talk about this other thing that will coincide with the different people. For example, let's say you are in a room with students and executives. What do you do there? First, you can start by pointing that out. I see today we are a mixed audience. We have some students. We'll bring on these young nature, and then we have some people with a lot of experience. And what I'm going to share today will be useful to both of you. You will find advice from these people, and you will see what students do well that the executives are not doing so well, and so forth. So make sure you always find the balance and something that can connect the two audiences together. You can also tell a story that will be relatable to everyone. So let's assume it's executives and professionals, but they have all read the book The Alchemist. You can use a story about the boy in The Alchemist to make sure that the message reaches both the audiences. There is another question here. What methods do you use to help a client refine their core message under pressure? Okay. First, I talked about preparing for a speech and preparing for it like you're prepping for the Olympics. The reason why I mentioned that you should prepare in blocks and then try to prepare different section randomly is because you can be put under pressure any moment. So the most important thing whenever you are structuring your speech is to know your key message. I talked about starting with the end in mind. What do you want them to think, to feel, or to do? So let's say you are talking about public speaking. What is your key message? The key message is always have a key message. Okay? So that is the end. To do that, you will then have supporting points which will support the key message you have. For example, tell them just one thing. The other thing, repeat your key message several times. And finally, the other thing is wrap it in a story. So I repeat that point. You have your core message. Your core message is always have a key message. Then you have supporting points. I do encourage you keep the points to just 3. And why? Because human beings love things in 3. For example, there's the Holy Trinity. There is Steve Jobs. When Steve Jobs was launching the iPhone, he spoke about 3 things about the iPhone. He said it's an iPod, it's a telephone, it's an internet communicator. And then he repeated that several times. So people will always remember that. Actually, that is the only thing I remember from that presentation. That the iPhone is an iPod, a telephone, an internet communicator. So my key message is always have a core message. Then there's the supporting point. Tell them just one thing you want them to remember. Number 2, repeat it several times. Number 3, wrap it in a story. So basically, make sure that you know that one thing you want them to remember, and you should use the Twitter test when summarizing your core message. The Twitter test tells you that if you can't summarize your message to 280 characters, then it's too long. People won't remember it. People don't want to remember your full sentence talking about things and explaining and so forth. They just want something simple that their brain will catch on faster. For example, you can tell them a message like leadership is about empathy, just that. And then repeat that and have supporting points, 3 supporting points about that. So you may ask me if I want you to only use 3 supporting points. What about the other points that you earned? Maybe you earned 11 points. Simple thing is that people will not remember your 11 points at all. So what you do is you summarize those to make sure that, or you group them together to make sure that you only have 3 groups. Then in those groups, that is where you will talk about your other points, supporting points in the supporting points, and that will be clear. How do you ensure your message is both clear and memorable? Beautiful. So this one will just help me summarize what I've just talked about. To make sure that my message is both clear and memorable, first, for the memorable part, I will repeat it many times. And to make sure it's clear, I will use the Twitter test to make sure it's not so long that I can repeat it without wearing the people down or without forcing them to try and remember what I am talking about. Okay, can you give an example of how you turned a complex idea into a simple takeaway? Yes, I can give an example of how I turned a complex idea into a simple takeaway. For example, about public speaking, because public speaking is a very broad topic. You just can't teach it in one day. So, public speaking is about knowing your audience, structuring your speech, having a killer opening, having the points to teach people. You just summarize this into something like public speaking is like speaking to your friend, but many of them. That's a simple takeaway I can have. Okay. The next question is, how do you approach a speech structure for a time sensitive, high stake setting? So, a time sensitive, high stake setting, the best one I can imagine is a TED talk. So, a TED talk is about 18 minutes long, meaning that you have to make sure that whatever you tell them is what they must know or what they need to know and not what is good for them to know. So what we do here is we trim your darlings, okay? Those things that you felt, I can tell this, then they will all laugh and they will all enjoy this presentation, and it's going to last for 10 minutes before I land to the point I have. Instead of that, just summarize it to something short. Or if it's not necessary, then cut it immediately. Okay? So this is what you do, or this is how you will structure your speech for such a time sensitive, high stake presentation. Let's talk about the opening. Remember, the opening is what will determine if they want to tune in your speech or they want to tune out. So this is what you do. You start with the 3 P's. The 3 P's, the first one stands for purpose. Purpose is, why are you here? I am going to teach you how to increase your productivity. The second P is for promise. The promise is, what will they learn from this presentation? Or what should they care about? So you should tell them, by the end of this presentation or during this presentation, you will learn how to do this. And then the third P is for path. The path shows the blueprint you will take. First, I will start by identifying your time wasters, and then I will recommend some tools to use to increase your productivity and so forth. When you tell them this, then you can move on to the body. The body, as I said, make sure that you have one key message, of course. Then, according to that key message, have 3 supporting points. This is what I want you to take away. The first point is how to identify your time wasters. Tell them about that. The second point is the tools for productivity. Tell them about that. The conclusion. Tell them about that. And then move on to the conclusion of your speech. The conclusion of your speech, as I said, is what will determine if they will remember you after or they won't. So you can tell them, to circle back or to summarize what I just covered, this is one, two, three. And then, of course, never forget to close with a call to action. You remember that thing you made them think, feel, or do when you are opening the speech, close with it. This is what I want you to remember. One, two, three. Basically, just that. Now, let's say you tend to answer some questions from the audience and you only have 20 or 30 minutes to give your talk and answer the question. What you do is you tell them in the opening of your speech. After this, we will have some Q&A sessions. I will answer some of your questions. And since we don't have a lot of time, write your question down. I will answer the ones I can. The ones I can't, we will have to take them offline or backstage, or I will get back to you via email. Also, limit every person to just one question, because if one person has more than three questions, then that won't look good for you. Make sure you don't run out of time or you don't go over time, because that is disrespectful to the audience, to the organizer, and to the speakers who will be speaking after you. A follow-up question: how do you teach pacing and transitions under time constraints? Pacing and transitions. So, don't think that speaking so fast will make sure that you convey a lot of information. This is what will happen instead. If you're speaking so fast, then people will be racing to understand what you are trying to say and they won't catch anything you are saying. So have this key message, then have the supporting points, three supporting points. There, make sure that you emphasize each supporting point carefully. And of course, repeat your key point. I would rather let my audience remember just three things that I said than say 10 things which they won't remember any of the thing I said. Also, the transitions are very important. This is what helps the audience know we've just covered that point. Now we are moving on to this other point. So you can tell them, now that we've covered how to identify your time wasters, let us cover the productivity tools that you need to use. Or you can tell them that marks the end of that point. So now let's move on to this point. Or what's important to note is that this is it. I have another question here. How do you train a speaker to rehearse effectively beyond just memorizing the script? First thing, I do not teach anyone to memorize the script because you may forget. I remember the first time I wanted to speak in parent in high school, I was told by the deputy principal, you have to start speaking more during assemblies because as the deputy handler, you should you should speak. People want to hear from you. You should show your leadership skills through speech. I didn't want to speak. Speaking wasn't for me at all. And this was even a position I wasn't trained for. I was just surprised with the news that now you're the deputy handler. But according to how the deputy principal said it, I knew it wasn't negotiable. I had to give the speech. So what I did is I had a motivational book which I was reading. I decided we read it, summarize some of the points, and then form them into a speech which I will present on Monday. It was on Friday then. So from that moment, I did not concentrate at all in class. I was just thinking of the presentation on Monday, and it was really stressful for me because I could see others doing it. I didn't know if I could do it. I see the people, about 1,000 students will be staring at me. There will be teachers staring at me. It was very uncomfortable. So I would write or scribble the speech or try to memorize it when the teacher was teaching. During break times, I didn't take a break, just trying to summarize the speech. On Saturday, that's all I did. On Sunday, after church and other things, I took that time to rehearse the speech. through memorizing the script, of course. Then Monday came, and then it was time to give the speech. So I started. Many people have a desire to change their lives. They live with the hope and conviction that one day their life will be better. And then I forgot what I had to say. I forgot the entire body or the points I had. All I could remember was a section next to the conclusion. So I said that section and the conclusion and left. Now, one thing for sure is when you when you forget something, there are some facial expression that come to your face immediately. So I'm there, I'm speaking, I've forgotten, I'm like, they are seeing that impression. Then I start speaking the point which is next to the conclusion. And of course, now that I know I've forgotten and I won't say what I was to say, my voice has gone down. I'm now shivering, my voice is shaking, and confidence is lost. And of course, when you lose confidence, people will lose it in you. That is how I made sure that my first presentation sucked. But after that, I had to revenge. So that one is the story of another day, how I revenged. So the thing is that if you memorize your speech, you might forget. Most people forget. So do not memorize your speech. This is what you do. Again, have a key message. With your key message, have three supporting points. Just three. Then you can add storytelling, you can add other points in the supporting points. That's just what you need to do. And then, of course, have a killer opening, have a killer closing. The opening will make sure that they know what they are in for, what you are going to deliver. Use the three P's: promise, purpose, and path. Promise is what they will cover. Purpose is why you are here, and path is how you will get to delivering what you've promised. The closing is what you say that make sure that they remember you after the presentation. End with a call to action. This is what I want you to think, feel, or do. Basically, just that. Okay, follow up question. No, the question actually was, how do you train a speaker to rehearse effectively? I was saying how I don't encourage anyone to memorize. So to train effectively, make sure that you've practiced the introduction, the opening, the body, the closing. Okay, let's cover all those areas I've touched. And you may wonder why I'm saying introduction and then saying the opening. The introduction is what you can use as a story, as a question, as as a story, as a question, as a shocking start. Basically, this is what you use to hook the attention of the audience to make sure that they know you are just not another speaker who speaks to them every day. So, for example, you can tell them, I'm not black. That will catch their attention quick. And then explain why you think you are not black, or give them a twist to that story. Then the opening is where I've told you, you tease what you are talking about. This is just like a trailer of a blockbuster. Okay. The trailer determines if that person will watch the rest of the movie or they shouldn't even think about it. And I've talked about the three P's: the purpose, the promise, and the path. The purpose is why you are here. So that answers the questions: why are you here? Then there's the promise. The promise is what they should, what they will cover, or what's in it for them. Then there's the path, which shows how they will reach there. We move on to the body. The body, I've told you, always have a key message. With your key message, have three supporting points: one, two, three. You can also have three steps: step one, step two, step three. You can have three stories: one, two, three, and so forth. The other thing is the conclusion. You end with the CTA, that is Very simple. And of course, wrap your points in stories. So, how do you simulate pressure? I talked about this earlier, and there is a point I didn't mention, and that is always make sure that you have prepared for your speech for the 80% of the time you will be covering it. So, let's say, for example, your speech is a 30-minute speech. That's what you are told. Practice to say the speech in 80% of the time, which is 24 minutes. So here you will know something may go wrong, I may be delayed, I may be told cut to this point, and so forth. So that is one way to do it. Another way to do it is make sure there is noise in the background. For example, turn the TV on. Try to speak, try to project your voice. Try to see if you will get distracted. If you can say your speech even with the noise happening in the background. Use the clothes you would use for the presentation if that's possible. Wear those shoes. If they are those very high heels, can you walk around with them comfortably? That shirt that you bought, can you raise your hand well? Can you use front gestures in the clothes that you have? And so forth. Follow up question: do you use any drills or tools for building confidence and fluent delivery? Yes, of course, there are tools for building confidence. The first, most powerful tool, which people don't mention, is making sure that you can explain your speech. Because if you can't explain it, then you will not be confident. No matter how much time, how many times I tell you to breathe or to stand like Wonder Woman or to manifest, to meditate, to pray, if you don't know what you will be talking about, nothing can save you. If there's a point you don't remember or you can't say by heart, meditation, manifestation is not going to save you here. So that's the first one. The second one is now the other things I'm talking about. And there's also something else that is very important that also people don't cover. And that is making sure that you are happy before going to present. You can do this by maybe something that makes you happy is a certain movie. For example, if you watch a sitcom, you will be so happy you can do anything. Watch a sitcom, watch just a short version. If it's a funny video of a cat running on a treadmill that will make you so happy, do it. If you like doing push ups before the presentation, do it. That one will help you have this internal presentation. Oh, no, the internal confidence. And of course, when they see you are confident, they will know that they are in for something great. Now, when you enter the room, stand there for 2 seconds. I do know many people can't stand there for 2 seconds, but please do. Okay? People will see you are confident. People will see, oh, this is a person who is ready to give me something very important about this presentation. Stand there for 2 minutes. Look around or across the room. Then smile. After you smile, walk to the stage and start speaking. Everyone, even those who are making noise, chatting, interacting, looking at the earphones, will all pause, keep quiet, look at you, and wait for you to utter your next one. The next question: what's your strategy for managing nerves and performance anxiety before or during a big presentation? I believe this is the question I've just answered. So basically, yes, do something that makes you happy. Make sure that you know your speech in and out. Because if you don't, then you will be anxious and nothing will save you, even if you breathe and jump and do push ups and watch videos and so forth. Breathing techniques are also something else you can do. There is the box technique where you inhale for 4 counts, 1, 2, 3, 4. You hold for 4 counts, you exhale for 4 counts, and then you hold again for 4 counts, making it look like a box. Then you repeat. You can visualize that presentation going well. Okay, close your eyes and see how people will be cheering after you are done with the presentation, how people will come back to you and congratulate you and so forth. Visualize this going well. Do anything that you do. Pray. Pray that this happens well if you are someone who prays. Jump to make sure that you have your oxygen and blood flowing well in the body, that you won't feel anxious when presenting. Also, very important to note that everyone feels anxious because, of course, you do not know what is going to happen, and you are going to do something which is important to you. So that's basically why you feel anxious. Apart from if you don't know what you are talking about. But if you know what you are talking about, you will still be anxious because you're going to do something that you really care about. So don't worry, everything is going to happen as planned or even better than planned. Another question: how do you coach someone who's too stiff or robotic in a high stake presentation? Yeah, too stiff or robotic. This person will just stand there, then use a monotonous tone to speak, look at you, say a point, bullet points, one, two, three, four bullet points, five, six, or 10. They won't tell you stories, they won't make you laugh, and they will put you to sleep within the first 5 minutes of that presentation. First of all, your tone and pacing. Make sure that you are varying the in, intonation of your tone. So start high, then go low, then just symbolize that. Okay, then use gestures. Gestures or body language really helps you communicate or deliver the speech you are talking about. For example, there are the A level gestures, which you have your hands just here, where you just tell them, so we are going there, and then move on there, and up and down and so forth, and this and that. Those are not gestures. Then there are B level gestures, which you will move your hand slightly, but just to this point. So here and there and up and down, and so forth, and in the middle of it. You can use those ones when it's a microphone which is planted on the podium, and you won't have a way to move with it. But if you have space to move, you can use bold gestures, go wide, go narrow, go up, go down, then walk on the stage. So, walking on the stage, you should walk purpose, purpose. Oh my God, you should walk with purpose on the stage. By with purposes, you can identify a certain spot in the stage to talk about something. For example, when talking about your past, go to the left corner of, or the left side of the stage. When you are talking about your present, go to the middle. When you are talking about what you expect to get in 5 years' time, go to the right side of the stage. So, meaning when you go back to the left stage, people will know, oh, they want to talk about a time in the past. If you go to the right, they will know you want to talk about something you plan to do in the future. Okay, there is a follow up question here. How do you give feedback without damaging their confidence? The first thing I do when giving feedback to anyone is I first ask them to critique their style of presentation. I ask someone, based on what you've said, what do you feel you could have improved? They say, maybe I should have walked more, I should have used more gestures, I should have projected my voice even more, or it was so loud, I should have toned it down a little bit. Sorry if that freaked you out. That wasn't my intention. So, after they tell me what they think about that presentation they just had, I then tell them, yes, I have also noticed that, and this is what I recommend you can do. Or you are not so badly off. That is, if they were not so badly off. If you are so badly off, I won't lie to you. But I won't tell you you are so badly off. I'll tell you, there is a lot of room for improvement in this area, or based on the feedback you've given, this is what I would add to that. Please do that. Work more, use more bold gestures. Don't just stand there. Don't use a monotonous tone. Make sure that you vary your tone up and down and center and so forth. Another question: how do you help a client recover if they make a mistake or lose track mid presentation? Very simple. So, if the mistake is forget your speech, they barely don't forget their speeches if I coach them, because I always coach them to have a key message and three supporting points, and then always show them how to practice in blocks so that even if you're told to jump to a certain point, you can do so effortlessly. But if they make a mistake, for example, say something that wasn't related to what they are talking about, let's say they lost focus or they got carried away and they talked about something else, I tell them to apologize, because people will forgive that, but people will not forgive it if you panic. So apologize. Sorry guys, I have been telling you these things, but what, and this is important, what is really important for you to note is this, or what you should really know, or what I should be talking about, so that you can cram the most value from this is this thing. Okay, if they lose track in presentation, again, I usually teach methods that will make sure that you don't lose track of whatever you're talking about, but you may get carried away. Again, use transitions. That was a by the way, or what is important to note is this. What you should really take away from this is this. Hey, listen carefully, because what I'm about to say is important. All those are transitions you can use to take them back and, of course, apologize for that mistake. There's a next question. What checklist do you give clients for final presentation prep 24 to 48 hours before they speak? The first thing, so here is after they have practiced their speech, they can tell it from any corner. They can start with the conclusion, then going up, or start with point number three, and then jump to point number one. What I make sure is, are your slides ready? Do you have backup for those slides? Yes, I have backup for these slides. Okay, is your clothing ready? What you will wear on that presentation? Have you run through the presentation out loud for the last time? Yes. Have you backed up your slides on the cloud or on a USB, so that if your laptop fails, for example, you can give the USB with the slides? Yes. Okay. Do you have enough time to sleep or rest? Because you need to speak or rest. If for 24 hours you won't have enough sleep and the talk is tomorrow, that may sabotage that. Okay. The technology, for example, the mic, the laser pointer, the projector, are they working? If this is not something you can access directly, make a call, ask about this thing, or get there early in the morning to make sure that you've checked those things. Then the mindset. Mindset is very important. Are you ready to deliver this? Do you feel anxious? Do you know what to do at that moment? And basically, with that, you will be able to crush your presentation. There is the last question: how do you evaluate success after a high stake presentation? First of all, I do notice that I may see it as successful, but if the person who was speaking doesn't see it as successful, then we are going nowhere. So the first thing I do is ask that person, what do you think you did well in the presentation? How do you think the presentation went well? Then they'll tell me, I think the presentation was so good because I had all these people coming to me, congratulating me, telling me about the things I covered and so forth, asking me questions. So first, that is one thing to evaluate success. Does the person who did the presentation feel successful? Another thing I can evaluate success is based on the interaction of the people in the presentation. If, for example, I wasn't there, if it's a recording I have, were the people sleeping? Were the people looking at phones? Were the people nodding and clapping and cheering, jeering, and so forth? Okay. Were there follow up questions? Were people moving with you on the stage as you did those gestures and body movement ways and so forth? Okay. How do you turn the experience into a long term skill improvement movement? So, this is, sorry, what's the question again? Oh, yes. How I turn that into a long term thing is to make sure that they can first always get back to that moment, what felt well. I want them to use that as a strength to guide them through the other presentations that they will have. Here, they will notice that they have it in them that they can present well. Okay. Then extract lessons to refine their identity over time. So I will, yeah, this is what went well, and then I can recommend other things that will help to build on to that and make sure that presentations always go well for high stake presentations. And that is the last question we had to cover. Basically, that is how you need to prepare for a high stake presentation. So, to recap that, to prepare for a high stake presentation, make sure that you know your audience. Make sure you have a killer opening and killer closing. The opening is what will determine if they want to tune in and listen to you. The closing is what will make sure that they always remember you, or they will remember your points after the presentation. Then we have anticipating the curveballs. No, something may go wrong during the presentation. Have handouts or printed documents that you share with the people as you speak so that they can follow along if your slides fail, or make sure that you are covered in case you get the difficult questions. Something else is prepping like you're prepping for the Olympics. Here is where you rehearse, you make sure that you can explain your speech from any position. You can start with point number 3, then jump to the opening and so forth. Something else is to make sure that you have your storytelling methods, because people care about stories. Stories build connections. Stories sell what you're talking about. They won't remember your bullet points. Something else is to always make sure that you own the room, because confidence is contagious. If they see you're confident, they will also be confident that whatever you're going to tell them will help them in either their businesses or their lives and so forth. And finally, follow up like a pro, because the presentation doesn't end when you're done speaking, it ends when you've sealed the deal. Thank you. Daisy Annette.